All right. Let's see here. Oh, Tim, I wonder if we'll end up having to Schrammel, Tim. Do you think the thing you had to do at the hackathon to get Steam VR working, you had to go to the NVIDIA settings and let NVIDIA know that Steam VR was an app that should use the GPU, the strong GPU. Well, I wonder, do you think we need to do that for Unity as well?
I don't know if you'll have to do it or not, because I'm not sure if I did your entire computer off of the NVIDIA or if I did just the one.
Well, that was one of the things I had read about, because what was the what's the NVIDIA app called? GeForce, is it the GeForce Experience?
I don't think it's GeForce Experience. I think it's just the NVIDIA control panel is what I used.
Is it down here somewhere?
It was.
There's the graphics settings. So maybe it's under control panel. Is there a?
I think I usually right click on the desktop.
Oh, and there's a drop down. There it is. I don't even know if we'd be able to tell if there was a difference. Okay, so it's showing Unity 3D here, because I assume you added a, this was the screen you were on for the Steam VR one?
Oh, yeah.
And what, you just hit add? But I wonder, is there a way to tell whether it's already using that?
Thanks. Mine's lagging. So, I don't know. I have stuff on here that I believe. That's awesome.
Okay, so we're selecting the Unity editor.
Yeah, mine, when I select a program, then there's like a number 2 part, and it says select preferred graphics processor for this program. And you can see like whether it's the global setting, the specific integrated, or like here it says high performance NVIDIA processor there. And then in that drop down, you can probably select a different one.
Okay.
Also, there's some way to like put the project we're working on GitHub, because I wasn't able to download the Dropbox. It said like the zip file is too large.
Says the zip file is too large.
Yeah.
How big is the zip file?
I'm not sure how much.
I mean, putting up on GitHub is, I think it's going to be more difficult. I haven't done GitHub with a Unity project.
I mean, otherwise, I mean,
I don't know
like,
if you
help me out.
can do GitHub.
You can. I know people who do it. But I would think that it would just give, I mean, that thing should have just given you a link to the folder. But how big is the folder? I don't think the folder is that big.
Oh, this is what it took me to.
Okay.
And then when I clicked down, direct down at the top, that's what it says. That was too much. This is that.
So Unity VR projects. This is the file.
And it's your mouse glitching.
That's my what?
Your mouse.
Well, it's not glitching on here. Maybe it's something with the I think the screen recorder I use captures mouse clicks and like kind of highlights them or something. So it's probably constantly looking at the mouse. Yeah, it looks like our folder for this project is 1.4 gigs. I wouldn't think that would be too big. Here, maybe let me try something else here. Would you say maybe the most needed piece would be the scripts?
It would be nice to like see everything, but.
Well, I'm just thinking here. I'm going to create a link for just the scripts folder. Let's put that in here. And yes, you should keep a log of all your hours for your project. All right, so if you click on that, see if it'll let you download that. That should be a very small, 15 text files or something like that.
Yeah, that'll work.
So this one, let me just click this one. So that takes you to this. You say direct download, that's when it screams at you?
Yeah.
The zip file is too large. Interesting. Oh, but you can go into individual. You just can't directly run it. So like you can go into the assets here. And you can say, okay, maybe you want this asset. I'm guessing it's building. Yeah. So you're able to go in there and you can get different pieces of it. You might be able to get the whole project. You just can't ask it to do the whole project itself at once. You might have to go through and grab individual folders until you see what I'm saying? So it might be a little bit of a headache, but you could pull it off.
Would I have to put that all in one folder though, to like to be able to actually open it all together, or is it automatically like know that is all at once together?
Well, I mean, you would have to reorganize it the way it originally was. So I would probably do one folder at a time. So like right here, like you might be able to do, like here at this level, I wonder if you can just do assets. So if I click on assets and I click download, will it let me grab all assets? Yeah. So you probably could do it like in 4 or 5 downloads and get everything. The other thing you probably could do is if you use Dropbox, since this is only 1.4 gigabytes, the free version of Dropbox gives you up to 2 gigabytes. So you could either, you can just add it to your Dropbox if you're not using tons of space and you have enough space for that. Or I guess you could create a second Dropbox account that has, you could have the 2 gigabytes. That way you would have your own version of it.
I don't have a Dropbox.
Yeah. So then
would I just be able to download it?
Yeah, then you would just install Dropbox on your machine. It would just be on your computer all the time. And then it would stay up to date with what we're doing. All right. Oh, I have to reopen. We had a little bit of a incident at the hackathon where we had to reinstall Windows on this machine.
On that one? I thought we didn't.
Oh, no, it wasn't this machine.
Yeah, it was the Mac. I thought.
Yeah, it was. So why isn't the
It could be
just that we've opened too many since then? Okay. And while this is loading, I'll give you fair warning or whatever. Around week 8, so around the week of midterms, is we're going to be doing presentations in here where everybody will demo where they're currently at on their project. So if you're slacking and haven't been putting in the hours outside of class working on your project, you might want to pick that up. Otherwise, you'll embarrass yourself in those presentations, which I'll find entertaining as well if you don't have anything done. But punchline is that the rest of the class will know your progress at that point in time. And we'll talk more about that as we get closer, but just so we're still, 3 weeks or so out from that, 3.5 weeks. Well, I guess 3 weeks. In 3 weeks, you'll be giving a presentation that we'll talk about. Okay, so let's see where we left off here. Last time we did the whole dialogue back and forth dealy, right? And then I think we were doing some sort of bright light thing here at the end. That seems to be maybe more trouble than it's worth. Is that... This is the blinder thing we used. Oh, that's right. It's then we put a point light on it. Okay, so if we turn that off, now we can see again. All right, so last time we wrote this whole, this would be something I would encourage you to use in your projects or something very similar. So feel free to use our implementation from class for the dialogue, the back and forth. Why reinvent the wheel? You know, so we built the data structure for doing that. All right. So at the end of Gabriel's little talk there, we need to decide what happens next. So this is Luke 1, NIV. So let's see what happens next. All right, so this is where we're at right now. Is the angel has left Mary. So now when that happens, the next thing says Mary visits Elizabeth. So let's see if this is something that should be contained in our thing. So soon afterward, Mary hurried to a city in the mountainous region of Judah. She entered Zechariah's home and greeted Elizabeth. Okay, so we're going to be creating a mountainous region. When Elizabeth heard the greeting, she felt the baby kick. So that was the baby that Elizabeth was pregnant with that Gabriel had referenced. Elizabeth was filled with the Holy Spirit. She said in a loud voice, "You are the most blessed of all women, and blessed is the child that you will have. I feel blessed that the mother of my Lord is visiting me. As soon as I heard your greeting, I felt the baby jump for joy. You are blessed for believing that the Lord will keep his promise to you." Okay, so there's some dialogue that goes back and forth, but mostly this is a connective story that finishes the conversation we just had with Gabriel, and now we're going and visiting our friend Elizabeth up in the mountains, right? So we're going to need another scene. Okay, so this first scene we've called scene 1, right? That's what we've actually named it. To go to the project, I'm going to go to assets. I'm going to rename scene 1 to be let's see. Well, hold on. Let's look forward just a little bit, just see what's coming up next. All right, so the next scene will be there, Mary with Elizabeth. So this looks like, yep, so this is all the same place. So Mary praises God. We're still with Elizabeth. Okay, so this is the birth of John. We'll have to decide whether or not that's something.
Birth-giving.
It's a what?
Birth-giving again. Control the breath with one hand.
Yeah, that's right.
Contractions with the other. Keep the,
you actually play as a midwife?
Yeah. Keep the stress meter as low as possible.
That would actually be kind of funny. In VR, you actually deliver Jesus. I'm only about 20% against that. we might go there. We'll see. All right, so I guess let's leave it scene 1 for right now. I was just thinking whether we wanted to name it something else. So we'll name the next one scene 2. So we need to switch to our next scene, and we're going to have that happen at the end of the like instead of this whole blinder thing. When Gabriel goes away, we'll just go ahead and switch to the next scene. Okay. Now, I'm going to show you, and I'm going to have to review it a little bit myself, but there's and depending on what documentation you've looked at, some of you may have run into these issues if you've already switched to a second scene in your project. Sometimes you get warnings that this is deprecated, this isn't the way you're supposed to switch the scenes. So I'm going to go ahead and create a second scene down here. We're going to create scene. This is scene 2. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to File. I believe it's in Build Settings. So I'm going to go ahead and add the open scene called Scene 1. And then I'll close this for a second. Now I'm going to double click on Scene 2. I'm going to go back into File, Build Settings. And I'm going to add Scene 2. So these are the scenes that are in the build. So it didn't used to work this way. I think since Unity 5, it's worked this way. So Unity 5 and then Unity 2017, it's worked this way, which are kind of the same build. So then the way we launch it, we have a scene manager. I'm going to have to look that up real quick. But by doing this, we can now reference our scenes by name, Scene 1, Scene 2. So Unity 5, launch new scene. Yeah, scene manager. Yeah, see, this is the old way of doing it. That's the old way of doing it. Application load level doesn't work anymore. We can probably just make a guess at this. Go back to this scene. Go back to my scripts. So who actually finishes that script? Is it scene manager, scene controller? Because he's the one that actually tells Gabriel to go away. So when we stop the dialogue and we banish Gabriel here, scene management.scene manager. I think I need to import something up top. Yeah, Unity Engine Scene Management. So up top here, I'm going to, using Unity Engine.Scene Management. Okay. Then down here, when we stop our dialogue, we're going to say Scene Manager dot load scene. And then it takes in the name of the scene that we want to load. And the name of the scene we're going to load is scene 2. So that should get us to our second scene. Let's make sure that's the case. All right, so now we're on scene 2. All right, maybe there would be a little bit of a delay. So we want to actually see Gabriel go away or something like that. So one thing we can do, have we done any invokes in here? Okay, so let's say you want something to happen after a little delay. So I'm going to go ahead and inside of my scene controller, I'm going to create another function. It's going to be a private function. Private void load load scene 2, let's just call it. We probably named our scene controller a little bit poorly because we're going to probably have different scene controllers in each of our scenes is the way it's kind of going out now, but we can come back and switch some of this stuff. So we're going to say load scene 2, and this guy is going to be the one that actually loads the scene. So we'll put that code in there. All right, then down here, we want to actually invoke the load scene 2 method, but using the invoke directive allows us to associate time with it. And there's 2 versions of invoke. There's invoke and invoke repeating. So if there's some function that we want to call every 5 seconds or something like that, we can do that with invoke repeating. In this case, we're just going to call invoke once. This takes the name of the method that we want to call and then how long until we're calling it. So we're going to call load scene Two is the name of the method, and maybe do it after 3 seconds. So now there should be a little delay. We'll get to see Gabriel take off. And did I save that? All right, so a little bit of a delay. We might want to put some transition stuff in there, but let's focus on this next scene first. All right, so we are in scene 2 now. And let me think about this. I'm going to organize this stuff a little bit. I'm going to create a new folder. Called scene 1. Inside scene 1, I'm going to put scene 1. I'm going to put the scripts associated with scene 1. I'll leave the animations. It's still Gabriel. So yeah, I'll go ahead and put the animations in scene 1. And then let's create another folder for scene 2. And that way we can have scenes in there that are related to it.
That isn't going to change how you call it to change to scene 2?
I don't believe so. Because I think, well, I'm hoping that they were smart enough to track it when you move things within the program. But I guess we'll find out here in a second. Yeah, they got us there. All right, so this allows us to kind of organize our components a little better, because really when we wrote those initial scripts, we wrote them with only the first scene in mind, where we're probably going to have a scene manager in our second one as well. Maybe we'll name it a little bit more appropriately, like, you know, Elizabeth scene manager or something like that. But you know, we could plan it out and try to make some of our scripts very generic, and I think some of them we will want that. You know, if you think about having animals moving around and stuff like that, and actually, I know some people were asking about things like that. Was it somebody in this class that asked me, like, what if we want to have animals randomly moving around on the scene?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so why don't we actually do that before we go to scene 2, just so I can kind of show you how that'll work. Go ahead.
And then I'm also curious how I would have like a group of things move in formation.
A group of things moving. All right, so let me get some wandering animals, and then let's then you tell me in terms of that what you want to do.
Like an army marching.
But all.
So they have to stay together in the.
Oh, okay. Oh, I have a really cool solution for that. And it's built into the game, and it's sick. In fact, actually, I showed it to you the first night. Didn't we use NavMesh agents the first night?
I don't know if it was the first night, but yeah.
So what you do is you make all of your army guys NavMesh agents. Right. You set a single destination as a NavMesh agent, and you set all of their destinations to that guy.
But then they'll all, instead of all moving forward.
Well, right, but they shouldn't, I mean, because they're going to be considered, since they're a NavMesh agent, they have to avoid each other.
Right, but they'll run into each other and like, be against each other. They won't stay.
Oh, they start bumping in as they go? Okay. I actually have there's a thing with NavMesh agents, you can kind of create like a bumper type area. I think it's called radius. We'll look at it. Okay. But let's get some, so what would we have? Kind of like farm animals would be in this scene, probably. Let's go find some farm animals. Just to add a little. Or we can just have a cartoon cat. These have. I don't want to open anything. No animations on those guys. Click animation, click free. There's a magic pack. We could have like that kind of some sort of spell go off before we go to that second scene. Let's see what we got. Flies animated model. Well, I suppose we can have low poly house flies. I was thinking more like chickens or something like that.
Do you have any farm animals?
Let's just type farm. Let's take the free only off. Those are expensive farm animals. They're decent animals. There's the meshes. There's the prefabs. Yeah, I don't see any animations for those though. Oh, 9 unique animated farm animals ready to drag and drop into your game. A script is including to make animals wander around. Prefab of each animals are included for instant use. 5 of the 9 animals have an additional texture to change their. Well, they don't look. I mean, they don't look bad. Are these animals that would be found in like Bible times?
Well, chickens for sure.
Goats.
Goats for sure. I'm pretty sure cows existed too.
No, they wouldn't have pigs.
No pigs?
Yeah,
No, they just won't eat the pigs. I think they still had pigs.
That's just having a pig if you don't eat it.
I think pigs were like for garbage cleanup type thing. They'll eat anything. No, I mean I'm serious. I think. Yeah, you can't tell when I'm joking. I'm pretty certain that pigs have a use outside of their meat.
I don't think they. That's why there's one story where he like tells demons to go into pigs and they jump off the cliff.
Oh, that's true.
Like it wasn't a common thing to have pigs. Those look good. Super high poly count.
Well, I'd be okay with it if they are animated. I guess let's just see if they're animated.
the same one. Yeah, it's the same.
And are they animated?
I haven't tried it yet. I was just downloading like different stuff.
I mean, otherwise, we'll buy one that costs something if it would be beneficial, because then we'll just use them in multiple projects. It's not a.
Speaking of like the ones that cost stuff, like you said that the department.
Yeah, I think there's truth to that. I don't want to just guarantee just a free for all, but if there's like a pack that would be beneficial for your project, chances are it'd be beneficial for other projects. Chances are it'd be beneficial for the Bible VR project in general. So we would probably figure something out with that.
Like how much would it? Because like for my project, like I'm doing like the bullet from soldier.
Yeah.
Thing, because I'm doing like crucifixion, and I couldn't find anything free that has like animated people like that.
Yeah.
And I did find one that was like $30.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think something like that would be fine. I just want to see it first and let you know whether or not it would probably be covered. I would probably just buy it on mine and then give you the pack. That way we have it all centralized.
Okay.
That's ancient Egypt. Farm. Did this already? Vertex cat. This guy. Materials, prefab, scene, shaders. Let's just look at their demo scene here and see if anything's moving. Yeah, most packs come with a demo, some kind of scene where you can see their stuff in action. And all right, they're not moving. Everybody gets like really uncomfortable. They start you off just right in the right angle. All right, so let's get rid of those. Because so far it looks like these farm animals are pretty good, right? The first ones we looked at.
Yeah.
Farm animal pack. These are $45. How good are they?
Oh, jeez.
That's good.
Those look so realistic.
Yeah.
You can get an animal full pack, $125.
What?
I mean, these are kind of almost scary, aren't they?
I'd be curious to see what they look like in VR.
Ooh. He died.
He died.
So
I just laid an egg, I think.
Okay.
All right. So let's look at these. So that one was $45 for pretty realistic animals, right?
150.
But the question is do we really want that realistic, or do we really want more cartoony?
Yeah, those look fine. It's like everything else looks more cartoony as well. Like have more realistic animals than we owl that's flying around the zone.
Well, we could always change that guy out. So what all animals do we have in here? Chicken, rooster, pig, duck, sheep, goat, rabbit, cow, bull.
That's good.
We can use those for lots of stuff. All right.
Here's the animation.
I don't know if they're showing the animations for these. This session is too old. Log out and log in again.
Oh, there's this other really cool like asset pack that I found.
Okay.
It's called Time of Day. It like automatically changes. So it'll go like sunrise, day, sunset, night. You can like determine how long you want the whole day to be. So you can set it for like 5 minutes or whatever. It's pretty cool. They have like a weather master thing built into it too, but that one I feel like is a little more complicated. I'm trying to find like 3 times for the weather.
Okay. Should have been right at the top. Let's check out these animals. $25.
You can use those now though,
Huh?
since you paid for it. Like they'll give us access to them.
Yeah, you should already have access to them. The link that I gave you is to the live Dropbox. So once my asset folder populates, anything that's in my project here, you have access to that link I gave you. You'll have to download, that folder that has those in it. Well, yeah, you don't want to go and get it from the asset store. You want to grab it off of my folder because you don't have my account logged in with the asset store. All right. So, what kinds of things are we going to see around the? That's the demo thing there. What kind of animals would we see around here? Chickens. So let's get a couple of chickens kind of running around.
Do they have sheep in them?
Yeah, there were sheep. Farm animals. Here's our prefabs. Animals. Oh, what props do we have? Comes with some props. Oh, we got barns. And we got like hay and stuff. Now you can use this for your here's hay for the Egypt one. Did it have a windmill? Would they have a windmill back then? No windmills? All right.
The only one we have is that one.
All right. So you want some roosters?
Maybe some chickens.
We have chickens too? Oh yeah, we have chickens. So let's zoom in here. Let's just see what that guy looks like just standing there. Oh, he actually has a wander script already put on him.
Is it wander animation or
It's a script. So you can kind of give him a radius. Right now he has his max distance. So you can use the built-in ones, but I'm going to show you, let's just get a couple of things into the scene to make it feel alive. But then I want to show you kind of how to pad things in a very specific way. Oh my gosh. All right, so I'm going to create an empty game object here. We're going to call this guy animals. We'll put our chicken in there. And then let's make some more chickens. Move that guy there. Move that guy there. And then let's rotate these guys a little bit. So they're not all just facing the same way. All right, so now we should have several wandering chickens. Makes it feel a little more alive. All right. And then we got some goats. A couple of goats in there. Get a rooster. All right, let's see what all that looks like.
Could we add a script to the animal, like a relay script, so when you're approaching it?
Oh, so that they run away?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you can. Is that, well, I don't know how high of a priority that is. I mean, you certainly can. Does it bother you that the chickens don't run away when you get too close? All right, so we have a couple animals in here. Let's so something I want to show you is some pathing stuff. Let's say that we want to, I mean, right now they're just set to like just sort of wander, right? But let's say that we wanted an animal to kind of pace its way around between a couple of points, something like that. So we're gonna take the white goat, and we're gonna give him some places for him to go. So something I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna say that our white goat, got a component here. We're gonna say that this guy is a nav mesh agent. All right, so this goat's gonna be a nav mesh agent. We'll leave him like that for right now. And we can set his target as other nav mesh. We can set his target to be other nav mesh agents. So let's say we want to have a couple of points of interest for the goat. So for example, I'll create another empty folder here. We're going to call this guy what do we want to call them? Beacons. Call them beacons. All right. So now inside these beacons, I'm going to create some a couple of a capsule. All right, it's good enough. I want to just get that lifted off the ground some so it's above the ground. All right, so it's a high, so 0.5 should be at the, that should be right on the ground. All right, and I'm going to position these. I'm going to have one here. We're going to call this guy, call that B1. We'll have one here. We'll have one back here. And we'll have one right there. I probably should have made my prefab first, but that's fine. We'll just deal with this. This is B2. This is B3. This is B4. All right, so I'm going to end up turning the nav meshes off of, not the nav mesh, I'm sorry, the render, thank you. I'm going to end up turning the render off for these so we don't actually see them at runtime, but we'll have our scene manager kind of manage that. And what these guys are going to do is they're going to have colliders built into them so that when the an animal, so we'll tag, so we've done tags in here yet?
Yeah.
We've done tags, okay. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to tag the goat as an animal. All right, assuming they haven't already put a tag on these guys. Yeah, he's untagged. So we'll give him a tag. So let's go ahead and do that now. So I'm going to add a tag. And we're going to call this guy animal. Okay. Then we're going to go back to our goat. Okay. So we're going to say that this animal, when he collides with one of these beacons, the beacon's going to know who collided, and is going to then randomly pick the new target, the next destination for the goat to go to. All right. So initially, the goat will have its first target. It'll start walking towards, let's say, beacon 1. When it arrives at beacon 1, we're going to roll the dice, and we're going to decide which of the beacons other than beacon 1 can we travel to. Should we travel to next? That way there's some randomness to it, right? So we'll pick one of the other beacons. We'll start. He'll start walking there. When he hits there, we'll do the same thing again. So these beacons are going to have a script on them that'll detect the collision and then call upon our singletons. We already have our scene controller set up as a singleton, correct? I believe we have. Yeah, this guy has. We have the instance of our scene controller, so we can gain access to it through this. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create some public variables. So we're going to call this public game object B1. And how many did I have? 4? 2, 3, 4. Okay, and then in start here, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to hide the beacons. So we're going to say this dot B1. Well, let's not hide them yet. I'll show you the hiding thing. So let's go connect our beacons up to this. Okay, so we have our scene controller. And here's our scene controller. We're going to have 4 new deals here, hopefully. Assuming I saved, which I did. Come on. That's the scene controller script.
Is it in that scene?
Well, yeah, I assume so. I didn't copy the scripts folder.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I mean, we only have one of these. I saved it again. Well, now it says public game object B1. Let's open up scene 2. Then go back to scene 1. Then click on this guy. Yeah, I mean, it's in there. That's weird. I assume you can have more than, well, I know you can have more than 4 public variables. Save that. All right. And then let's just add 1. Okay. Let's add 2. Big money. Woot. Yeah, I don't really have a great explanation for what's going on there. All right, so let's hook those up. And we will take a break at some point soon-ish, but I just want to get us to a decent point for this.
For the game object, if we use the public transform point to let us like select the numbers of positions we want to use and targets. Transform points.
Yeah, so each of these beacons has a transform, right?
Yeah, because you're trying to create like a separate public game object for each of them.
For each of the beacons, yeah.
So I'm thinking if we make it like a transform point, like a transform point, a public transform point, it gives us the option to select multiple positions. And that was what I used for the cost script.
Well, right, but so this, I mean, isn't this the same thing? I mean, isn't it a game object?
It's like a suggestion. You're thinking of getting more because you said you were like, is it possible to have more than 4?
Oh yeah, I can have 50.
50. Because you're like more than 1.
Yeah, I just did 4 for an example here. But I mean, you still have to have a game object. The game object is really the container. The most generic game object holds a transform, an XYZ coordinate, right? But without the game object, we can't make it a nav mesh agent, which means we can't make it the destination of a nav mesh agent. So I'm going to have my goat try to travel to this guy over a nav mesh, which means I don't want my goat running through the middle of houses and stuff. So I'm going to set up this area to be a navigation mesh so that my goat will use Unity's built-in artificial intelligence to miss the houses and stuff, and he'll walk to this beacon. Then once he gets to this beacon, he's going to randomly pick a new beacon to go to. So he'll turn around and start walking to that beacon. So these beacons have to be nav mesh agents because a nav mesh agent can only set his destination to another nav mesh agent. Does that make sense? So they have to be nav mesh agents if we're going to do it this way. I'm going to hide them so you won't see them. Okay, so we see them just for here. I programmatically hide them. That way we can, in terms of us programming, planning out our scene here, we can visually see that we hit some beacons around the scene. So we can move them around quite easily, and then programmatically we'll turn off the renderers for them so we don't actually see them when we're playing. All right, so B1, B2, B3, B4. just run this real quick. All right, so there's my beacons sitting in there. So 1, 2, 3, and there's one behind me. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn off the visuals on those beacons. So here in my scene controller, in start, I'm going to say this.b1.get component. What's the mesh renderer? Mesh render dot enabled is equal to false. B2, B3, B4. Save that. So now we should be I didn't do it. All right, now we can't see them anymore. Okay. Let's go ahead. Let's take 10 minutes. Take a 10-minute break, walk around, and then, because our next step here is probably going to be about another 30, 40-minute step. So rather than getting started with it, let's